The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask for Candy, where we talk about healing, self-care, love, sex, relationships, and what it takes to be amazing on the daily. Who I am, I'm Candace Harper, lovecoach.com, and my purpose with this podcast is to create healthy, romantic relationships all around the world, especially now that there is a worldwide health crisis and people are in need of love and connection now more than ever. But before we get to that, shout out to Armed Radio and all the peeps around the world listening in. Don't forget to subscribe to Ask for Candy on Anchor. Subscribe to Ask for Candy on YouTube. Ask for Candy Podcast is the name of our channel. And when you subscribe, even if you're busy on a Thursday night, you will never miss a show. Also, we are on Patreon. So if you want to become a patron of the show, just click the link in our post description, become a patron, and get access to early content, first dibs on any of our perks, offers, or giveaways, and 30% off any private coaching package should you be interested. You know I'm a coach. You can follow me on Instagram at CandyLoveCoach and at Ask for Candy Podcast if you want to be entered in the Ask for Candy Cash App contest. You yourself could be a winner. There's going to be one winner every month. But what you have to do is you have to follow me at Candy Love Coach and at Ask for Candy Podcast and stick around to the end of the show, and I'll give you some rules for, how you can go about that and what the secret ways are to have me sending cash directly to your Cash App account. Who doesn't want that? So also you can email me, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions, any comments, anything that you want to say in response to anything that I say, anything that you want to bring up as a new topic. I like to introduce the things that you guys think and the things that you talk about and that you ask about. I like to use them on the show. So, get at me, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. Also, I am a relationship coach, a workshop facilitator, and a professional matchmaker with Talkify. Those of you who've been listening, you already know that. If you've never heard of Talkify, it's an amazing digital service where you can hire a matchmaker to do all the sifting and the vetting on your behalf. And it's especially great for people who struggle with initiating contact or just simply picking the right partner. Everybody has that struggle at some point or another. I mean, obviously there are those people who met in high school and stayed married forever, and good for them. That's wonderful. But for the large percentage of people out there who are single and looking for love, Talkify is a great service. So matchmaking and relationship coaching is most definitely my zone of genius. The best part about it is that week to week, I get to grow and learn as I interact with people around the most intimate part of their lives. People, you know how close we keep it to the vest, right? Our love lives. There's so much, energy and privacy, and probably even more so than our money lives. And, our feelings all around it, and, our hopes and our dreams and our pasts and our histories. It's just all center around how our love life is working out, whether we're willing to admit it or not. But think about any time you've ever been in a relationship that was going bad, or if things were falling apart in your relationship, how it affected every other area of your life. It is the apex of how we live. So what I get to do is grow and learn myself as I interact with people around this most intimate part of their lives. And I get to meet and nurture new clients. I get to screen possible dating candidates for them. I get to design programs and activities that deepen their ability to get to know each other. If you want to get in on this stuff, I also have a recruitment link, and you can sign up and do a little profile for yourself. It's very much like an online dating profile. However, me as a professional matchmaker and other professional matchmakers will have access to it, and you might get matched up with somebody. Most importantly, I get to be a part of what supports healthy beginnings and sustainably healthy relationships. So in my coaching, it's all about helping sustain healthy relationships or rebuild healthy relationships. In the matchmaking, I get to be in there on the ground floor in the beginnings. And I would hazard a guess that some of you are at home quarantined with someone right now and wondering if things would have turned out differently if you'd initially had someone there to help you choose in the beginning. The good news is that it's never too late to turn this ship around if both people are willing and able. Are you willing and able? Or are you like I was in my last relationship, my last long-term relationship, hoping, wishing, and praying that one day I would be able to fix my broken partner and have the relationship that I always dreamed of? Who's out there? Raise your hands and say amen. If you are out there in a relationship right now with some things that you wish you could fix, some things that if you could have your way and wave a magic wand, those things would be over in your partner. Those things wouldn't exist anymore in your partner. Those things maybe you saw in the beginning that you wish were different now, that you thought you could put up with, that if you could just flip them like a light switch, you would fix it and have the relationship that you've always dreamed of. But even if you're out there and you're not in a relationship, how many times, think about your past relationships, how many times have you ignored something about a past partner that you knew was so wrong for you, but you told yourself that you could eventually fix it, that it would be something that would evolve or that it would change or that there was something you could do that would make that person be different in some way? And then here's a question about that. How much of a colossal effect did it have on the reason that you ended up breaking up with that person? It might have even been the reason that you ended up breaking up with that person. So I'll give you a little personal story so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in my last long-term relationship, when I started dating this guy, there were two things that he did that I forced myself to roll with. Because first of all, I wanted so badly to be in a relationship. I had the story in my head that I was, getting to be a woman of a certain age and that there was something wrong with singlehood and that the only purpose of singlehood was to get into a relationship. I was just so twisted up. And if you have any of these stories in your head, you know that it fucks with you, it turns you around, it makes you do things that are out of character. It's a set of beliefs that are not workable for happiness, for a happy singlehood or a happy relationship. But he had these things about him. I decided to roll with them, and I convinced myself that I could fix these things about him. I was like Trump, and I alone could fix these things, right? Bullshit. Actually, now that I think about it, there were actually a ton of things that I knew that I was rolling with, that I was like, okay, at some point I'm going to fix these things about him and it's going to be fine because there's these other things that are in place. And the other things that are in place are usually superficial things. Like, he's tall, he's good looking, he's got a job. I can prop him up and put a nice shirt on him and put him in front of my family and, he'll look good on the outside and we'll take cute social media pictures. And if, we end up having a baby, it'll at least be a cute baby, those kinds of things where it's like, that'll appease that part of me that's making it wrong for being single. And I can fix the other stuff that I didn't like. And one of those things was that he loved to mope. He was a mopey, morose motherfucker. And the second thing was that he could not make it through a 24-hour period without getting excruciatingly high. He was always high, like every day. He also had this really frequent spitting habit, which I associated with always having dry mouth from so much smoking. But I digress. The first is that he was a mopey, morose motherfucker. Like, I can remember in one of our first dates, we went bowling and I went to the bathroom and I came back and he was sitting there waiting for me to come back. And he just had this very bad posture, slumped shoulders, sad look on his face that was sort of his default setting. I don't even think he was aware of it. He had this default sadness, this default mopiness, this downtrodden, depressive way about him. Now, I'm not saying that makes him wrong as a human being. There's a lot of people out there who are dealing with depression and sadness, and that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you as a human being, but you're probably not the best candidate for a long-term relationship, especially with someone who, is working on being happy, working on being, inherently wants to be happy. And that happiness was a core value of mine, but I ignored it because I so badly wanted to be in this relationship. And I said to myself, you can be happy enough for two. How crazy is that? I actually said to myself, you are a happy enough person that you will make him happy and he will come out of his sadness because of your happiness. That's codependency at its finest, right? So I knew going in that those were things that I just didn't want close to me every day. I don't have anything against weed smoking. You know, I get the medicinal value. I get the recreational value. I've done it myself a number of times. I'm not a regular weed smoker. I probably haven't smoked weed since the last time I saw him at this point, which we're going back a few years. You know, I don't need it in my life. Like, I'm someone who really likes to experience life full on 100%. I rarely, I drink every now and then, probably once or twice a month. I like to be 100% wide awake for all of it. And that's just me. I don't judge somebody else because they want to smoke, but he was someone he was a wake and baker who had a daily habit who couldn't get through, which that is not in alignment with who I was, and it doesn't work for actually having a close, intimate relationship. When you want to be close and intimate with someone, you could have two people who want to live that way, and that's a lifestyle thing. And, they can support each other in that and complement each other in that, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. And you can have two people who want to live life out loud and actually experience it and feel it and be awake for all of it and not have the fogginess. And also it makes me eat a lot and I didn't want to gain a bunch of weight. Like, we were out of alignment. But I ignored it because I felt like it was something that I could fix. And that also takes me down the other road of addiction and feeling like you can fix someone who has an addiction. That's a whole nother ball game and probably a whole nother show, but it's usually around addiction. So, yeah, back to the mopey moroseness, which I'm sure was tied to the weed addiction. Like I said, happiness was a core value of mine, but it's something that I have to choose every day, right? So I wasn't conditioned to be happy as a default, which is probably part of how I attracted him because I had my own sadnesses and things like that. But I had made a decision to choose happiness as much as I could and to be happy and to generate happiness. And I was still in a place where I felt like my happiness could save someone else from their sadness. Now I'm just repeating myself. But like I said, it's something I had to choose. It took inner work. And because I wasn't raised to be an inherently happy person, for me to be dealing with someone who had cynical views and hard luck stories and biting sarcasm whenever they were sober, it just was soul crushing. And it's a situation that I put myself in because I felt like I could fix him. I could fix these things for all the other things that I thought were valuable. And that's how I was responsible. I knew 100% going in who I was dealing with. And in the back of my mind, I played it out over and over again, a vicious loop of no, girl, don't do it. And then my ego saying, yes, girl, you are on this earth to help people. You have enough love in your heart. You can do this. You can help him heal. You can love him enough to love himself. You can teach him a better, a more loving way. You are lovable enough. He will want to be different because of the love for you. You can shower him with so much goodness that he will be wonderful. He has so much potential. Now, do you hear all the lies that I told myself? Are you out there telling yourself any lies? And this is not just the women, because men do this too. People who like to fix other people have to lie to each other. Not to each other, have to lie to themselves so that they can motivate themselves to be with people that they don't need to be with, that they are out of alignment with, for reasons that don't work. And it sounds so crazy when you say it, right? When I explain it out, it sounds like, well, why would anybody do that? And if you're in denial and you're doing it, you're probably like, what are you talking about? I'm talking about codependency, honey. Tonight's topic is the itch to fix other people and how to scratch that itch. And a lot of us have this itch, and it doesn't just stop at our romantic relationships. I'm someone who's had this itch for a long time. I consider myself to be solutions-oriented. I've had many friends, family say to me, I don't want you to fix it. I don't want you to tell me how to solve it. I don't want you to tell me the solutions. My mom used to say that all the time. As an adult, I used to always be there with her solutions. And as a child, I was always there, trying to be whatever would make her not angry because she had has a serious anger addiction. So, it's this itch that we get to fix. And not everybody has it. It's a very codependent story of not enoughness. And so that's what I want to talk about, is why those of us who have this itch to fix, this need to make someone else be different, or to mold someone, or to help someone fill their potential when they're not interested in helping it and doing it themselves. We have the itch for a number of reasons. I'll give you 5. I'm sure there's more than just these 5, but one of them is codependency. It's something that we learn in childhood. And I know exactly where my codependency came from. You know, I'm a Gen Xer. I was raised by baby boomers. And it really, you know, those of you who are of my generation and beyond, it's not like it stops as soon as a generation stops, but this idea of rearing your children with wrongness. So if you condition your child to be in trouble all the time, and you're always correcting the wrongness, and that's the relationship that you have with your child, you know, certain personality types of children, what they will develop is a codependency. So it's I need to please my parents. I need to do what I need to do in order to look good for my parents. Now, I also had a willfulness. So there was part of me that didn't need to be like, you know, an A student or all of that. But I learned how to emotionally be whatever I needed to be in order to survive my mother's anger or my dad's bad moods. Like, I learned how to be the funny one. I learned how to be the entertainer. I learned how to entertain myself. I learned how to detach. I learned how to do whatever I needed to do to kind of smooth over whatever was going on, whether it was anger or whatever. And so that's how codependency develops, right? I had a story of how I'm going to survive this is by being this certain way instead of just being myself. The second way that we get this itch to want to fix people is that we want to feel like we're good enough. We want to feel like, you know, it's a very ego-driven kind of, you know I'm a good human being because I do this for this person. This person needs me. What would this person do without me? It's a very ego-filling kind of emotion where it's like, you know, someone needs you. A lot of times people will have a lot of children, you know, because they want to feel good enough, or they'll try to accomplish a lot of things, whether it's scholastically or professionally or whatever, and they want people to be impressed by what it is that they do. You know, women of color in general, there's a lot of us out there who, you know, our achievement is one thing, and our achievement is an amazing thing, but a lot of us are out there achieving in order to be good enough, to prove to the world that we're good enough, living in a world that doesn't seem to easily allow us to be good enough. So that want to be good enough for a partner, to be good enough for the world, to be good enough for society, all of that is part of that itch to fix. So if I know the solution, if I can solve the problems, if I can make everything okay, then I will somehow at some point be good enough, which that never happens because it's a falsehood. Another thing is narcissistic tendencies. So narcissism is on a wide spectrum, and I know that it's a hot button psychological term right now, and everybody who's broken up with somebody wants to say they were with a narcissist. Well, we're all narcissists on some level, and we all have narcissistic tendencies. We all have narcissistic ways of being. If you go back through your own history, there will definitely be times where, especially if you're someone with the itch to fix, where that was your narcissism coming out, because either you needed that person to be a certain way to make you look good, or, you liked pulling the puppet strings of that person, and there was like you were getting some sort of narcissistic supply from the way you could manipulate that person. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm owning all of these as well. This is not me, trying to make anybody wrong or feel bad for where you're at or where you were. But this is just how we identify, like, where does this need even come from to fix other people? Because if we can identify where the need comes from, we can heal it so that we don't keep picking crappy partners. So we don't keep picking people that, you know, we feel like we need to fix. Another way another reason that we have the itch to fix is just our natural need to nurture. So there's some of us out there who are very nurturing people, and we want to take care of others. You know, there's always that person in the family who wants to bring home the lost puppies. And the lost puppies, you know, start out in childhood, they are actually lost puppies. And then you grow up and they start to be lost puppy people. Because we want to take care of everybody. And we want to make everybody okay. We have this need to be nurturing. And that also speaks to the not good enough stuff. It also speaks to looking for value in other people. trying to feel valuable to other people. And another one is abandonment issues. So like I mentioned, my mother addicted to anger my whole life, just so addicted to anger, and was always threatening to leave. So, there's abandonment where, a parent can actually leave, and that's a trauma. And then there's that constant feeling that your parent is going to leave because they say they're going to leave, or, they walk out and don't come back for days. I have friends who, especially with alcoholic or drug addicted parents who would just leave and maybe come back or not come back for months, or, whatever the trauma might be. But when you develop abandonment issues, you definitely can develop the need to fix and the need to make everything okay, the need to control things, right? And the need to mend all the holes. And that's another reason why we overlook certain things, because we think we can fix them later. And it feels familiar. And it feels like something that, we can handle because we grew up handling it. Holla if you hear me. I know this is not everybody out there, because some people, there's absolutely no need to fix whatsoever. And if that is you, good for you. I think that's wonderful. I'm sure you have other issues to deal with. But we're just talking about the need to fix, the itch to fix, and how to scratch it. So that's some of the reasons why we have it. You guys might have some other reasons for why you might have the itch to fix. And you can always email me and tell me what your reasons are. We can talk about them on another show. But now let's talk about why the itch to fix is so problematic. Now, some of it might seem obvious, because if you've ever been in a relationship like I have, where you felt the need to fix somebody, you know why it's problematic. You know how it all went wrong. You know how it all went south and got sour. But here's one. Because it's not love, it's manipulation. That need to fix, like, we may feel like it's coming from a good place, right? We mean well. And even in my circle, my healing circle that I do every Monday night, one of the agreements of the healing circle is that we do not advise. We do not, solve problems for others in the group. We do not tell people what it is that they should do in order to fix a problem, unless a person specifically asks for suggestions or coaching. That one of the agreements is that we do not offer that. We do not try to jump in on someone's problem, even when it feels like we're coming from a good place. Because the thing about that, and the whole purpose of the circle, is to cause intimate connection, support, and sisterhood. Now, for some people, they think that support is solving someone else's problem. And the reason that is not support is because when we offer suggestions to fix, that's coming from our own ego's need to fix. And it also doesn't take into account that other person's full picture of their life. So we put that person in a position of having to fight for their limitations. It's different if someone comes to you and says, I have this problem. What do you suggest I do? Or what do you think I should do? That's one thing. But when, someone is upset or crying, or if they're talking about a failure, and our instant response is, oh, well, you should just do this and this and this. That comes from that need to fix, right? And even though we mean it in a good way, we mean it from a good place, and they might even take our suggestion, it's not a loving thing to do. It's not a connective thing to do. It's a ego-driven problem-solving thing to do. There is a place for it in work. It definitely works. And, sometimes we get away with it with small things. But what we're talking about is actually being able to intimately connect with people, and what love actually is, how to have love with somebody. So that's why the itch to fix can be so problematic, because when, you want to be close to someone and all you can offer them is problem solving, that makes it manipulative. It makes it not intimate. It makes it not close. It makes it feel like you see that person as someone who needs to be fixed. And I'm coming from a place of definitely knowing people that I have wanted to fix, and knowing that there are certain people that inspire the need to fix in me. And so I had to learn that I need to stay away from those people, and not in any sort of resentful way or anything like that, but people who come to me with problems, or come to me and want to vent and vent and vent and vent and keep talking about the same problem over and over again, they trigger my need to fix. And it's not their fault. I'm totally 100% responsible for it. But I know that in order to heal my itch to fix, I have to separate myself from people who want to just bring their problems and want to live in their problems and don't want to live in the solution, because it's very confronting for me to be in that kind of situation. And so, it's a healing process. We all have to go through our healing process over it. So that's number one of why it's so problematic to have the itch to fix. Number two reason why it's so problematic is that you can't change anyone who doesn't want to be changed. They don't want it. They don't want it. I mean, my ex, he played a good game. Like, he talked a lot of good game. We would go to like personal growth seminars and stuff together. He would talk all the language. He knew all the lingo. And I played a good game too, because I wasn't always in alignment with it either. But all those things that I thought, us doing this and going to these growth seminars, that's going to change him. That's going to fix it. If I send him this YouTube video where somebody's talking about how you're supposed to behave in a relationship, that's going to fix him. If I give him this book, if I read this book with him, if I tell him about this thing that I learned, it's going to fix him. And he was so good at being like, oh yeah, sure, I'm totally into it. But deep down, he didn't want to change anything. He didn't want to stop being a weed smoker. He talked about it, but he didn't want to. And that's okay. Like, at the time, I thought that was like the travesty of life, because I wanted him to stop. But he didn't want to stop. And he probably still smokes weed to this day. In fact, I talked to him a few months ago, and I think he said he still regularly smokes weed. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's still out of alignment with who I am. But for me to put myself in a position with my itch to fix, to want to change it and make him not do it anymore, when he clearly didn't want to change it. I might as well have just gone outside and just started banging my head up against the side of the building, the brick building, and just kept doing that to see what would happen. Because that's basically what I was doing. We can't change anyone who doesn't want to be changed. So, I say all of this saying that if you are a fix-it person, if you are a problem solver, that's a great strong suit to have. It's a great thing to have for when you are with someone who wants that from you. Someone says, whether you're in a romantic relationship or a friendship, and they say, I want this help, I want to do this thing, and you see them actively engaged in doing this thing, like, I want to quit smoking weed, I want to start a business, I want to change my life, I want to learn how to read, I want to get a PhD, I want to, get this dream job, and you see them taking the steps. That's the kind of person that you want to get on board with, helping with your fixing skills and your problem solving skills, because they're already engaged in it. So you get to come along with your itch to fix, and you get to engage with what you're good at, which is coming up with the problem solving and feeling valuable and important, because you can help support them to get to where they want to get to. And they're going to be open to it because they actually do want to change something. But if you identify what they need to change, and they haven't identified what they need to change, it's very problematic to have the itch to fix with someone who does not want to fix it. And sometimes it can even get violent. And if you've ever been in a bad relationship where it really broke down, or it got violent, or it got resentful, and you really started to hate that person, or things just really went south, you know what it feels like. How frustrating it can feel when you've tried so hard to be everything you could possibly be for that person, and it still didn't work because they didn't want to change, and you were attached to making them change. And that's number 2 reason why it's so problematic to have an itch to fix. Number 3, it's how we become the narcissistic supply to a narcissist. So back to this popular phrase of narcissism and narcissists, and how we want to accuse everyone who we've ever broken up with having been a narcissist. So, if you've been listening to the show, or if you listen to a lot of the experts on YouTube, psychological experts, and a lot of the articles that talk about narcissism, you know that there's a such thing called narcissistic supply. So one of the things about a narcissist is that they are manipulators. They love to gaslight. They love to pull your puppet strings. And the way you become supply is by being so desperately emotionally intertwined and attached to what they do and who they are, and wanting to make them love you, and trying to connect with some sort of emotional something within them, and that your frustration, your anger, your love, your happiness, every bit of human emotion that you have, when they can sort of puppet string that out of you, it is supply to them. They love it. They eat it up because it validates them. It validates who they are. And that's, part of the thing about a narcissist is they need a lot of validation. They need a lot of reassurance. And what they use as validation and reassurance can sometimes be the worst parts of you. My ex, there was nothing he loved more than saying and doing things that would incite some sort of conflict so that we could build into an argument. And I was so good at being narcissistic supply because my narcissistic side so wanted to be powerful enough to change him. And I was so attached to having him change and having him be different, so that when he would do things that weren't different than what I wanted, all the emotion and the frustration and the anger and the sadness and all of my feelings would come pouring out. And I was an emotional mess for so many days because we'd get into these long phone arguments, these back and forth. And if you're in a relationship right now where you're constantly in arguments and constantly in conflict with each other, and it's always some sort of drama, trust me, one of you is being the narcissist at any given moment, and the other one is giving the supply. So that's another reason why it is problematic to be a fixer, because you get so attached to wanting to have fixed whatever that is about that person that every time you see some indication that it's not fixed, you lose your mind. And however you deal with losing your mind, some of us yell and scream and throw things. Some of us shut down and don't speak. Some of us get passive aggressive and get, retaliatory and resentful. That's how all that ugliness comes cropping up. Ooh, I'm getting notifications from Facebook, people trying to get in touch with me. But that's how all that ugliness comes cropping up, because we're so attached to having the fix and having it be different. Number 4, why it's problematic, because we're not capable of determining when or how a person will change for the better. So when we attach our lives to needing them to be better, we're setting ourselves up for all that resentment, right? Like I was talking about, that's the kind of stuff that usually ends up in a bad breakup or divorce, because we set ourselves up to be so attached. Like, you gotta change, you have to change. And I'm gonna stay with you until you change. That's a fix-it mentality. And it's very, very problematic for the peace and the happiness of your intimate relationship. Number 5, it blocks off our ability to be vulnerable and to be human. So every time we position ourselves as the fixer or the authority in a situation, it means that we have set ourselves up for behavior that is beyond reproach. So, once we say that we are the authority and the master of right and wrong and what should be done, what should not be done, what is okay, what is not okay, we then limit ourselves for what is possible for us. And we also, we are now the gatekeeper of the morality and the quality of the relationship. Does that make sense? I'm thinking about it myself to make sure it makes sense. But it's like what I was talking about before. When I'm busy solving someone's problem, I'm not in a space of being open and hearing, what it is that's really going on with them. I'm not in a space of connecting with them or being empathetic. I'm just looking to solve it. I'm looking to fix it. And, I mentioned earlier about my healing circle, and I love the ladies in my healing circle so much. They're my sisters. They're just beautiful, wonderful women, and they're powerful and they're strong. And, we have moments where one of us may not feel so powerful and feel so strong. And like I said, we have an agreement that we don't advise and problem solve and fix with each other, because that's not vulnerable and it's not connective. and it cuts off the other person's ability to connect with us when we're trying to solve their problem without it being requested. And, the other day we did run into that, and, we talked about it, and this is how beautiful and wonderful my ladies are, because we can have something like that happen in the conversation and then talk about that we broke the agreement and that we did try to fix and we tried to advise and that didn't work, and we can laugh about it and have it be okay. So, it's not like, I always say with this transformational stuff, it's not like you flip a light switch in yourself and all of a sudden you're perfect and you never try to fix anyone ever again. But you got to be willing to be self-aware about what you do and when you do it. Right? So if I set someone else up to be this perfect person, so if I say, let's use my ex, regular weed smoker, I'm going to fix you. You're not going to smoke weed anymore. You're not going to use any substances. That's it. So if I were able to fix you by my edict and my inspiration, because I'm so emotionally strong that I'm able to have you do the things that I think are right for you, then I also must be the one who stands up for my own rules. So I can't, drink any alcohol, smoke any weed, or do any of that stuff, because then I'm breaking my own self-righteousness. And I'm just using this as an example. I would have been fine if I couldn't smoke or drink or whatever. But did I want to set that up for my life? Like, do I want to be the gatekeeper who now has to be living above reproach because my insistence is that you live like I live or that you be like I be? No. If I say that there is absolutely, zero tolerance for whatever behavior it is that I don't want to see, then I can't make any mistakes around that behavior either. Like, I have to be 100% perfect as well. That's a lot of pressure to put on a human being, even if you're putting it on yourself. When what I'd rather do is just be able to be vulnerable and human and say, I make mistakes too. And I don't always do things perfect either. And I get why you feel like you want to do what you're doing or why you feel like you have to do what you're doing. I totally understand. I feel like doing my own version of that. You might smoke weed. I might eat boxes of cookies. And that's what I do. And we can be aware of all of that stuff without having to kill each other over it or fix the other person about it, and just make a decision whether it's something that I can live with or not. In the end of that relationship, what we discovered was that there is no reason for us to resent or hate each other, even though we put each other through hell. What was amazing about that relationship is that we taught each other, I think. I mean, I know he definitely taught me some things that I needed to heal that, were triggers for me. And I would not have learned that I was a fixer and that I had an itch to fix if I had not had this relationship. I would not have learned that I was keeping people at arm's length with my compulsive problem solving that wouldn't let anybody in, that wasn't a show of empathy. It was just an expectation that other people do what I think they should do. And there's a lot of us that are like that. It's not even something that is specific to gender or culture. Over the years, I've attracted a lot of friends who are like that. They lack an ability to emotionally, intimately connect, because if I cry, it's weak. If I share how I truly, truly feel, then I'm not in control. I know a lot of women who are like that, and a lot of men too. But I have more close friends that are women, so, I just happen to know more women that are like that. But that's what it is. It's a blocking of our vulnerability. You can't be vulnerable and be an authority at the same time. It's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, at least not with the intention of being both. Because I think by being vulnerable, you're an authority by default, and that people hear you as an authority if you're able to be vulnerable. But if your intention is to be an authority and to solve a problem, that's not being vulnerable. It's a paradox wrapped in a paradigm, wrapped in an enigma. The intention has to be vulnerable. That's what causes the connection. That's what inspires respect in other people. That's what has people see you, and then they get to love you from a place of actually seeing you and seeing who you are. So yeah, those are 5 reasons why the itch to fix is so problematic. And I'm sure that you guys could possibly think of some other ones. You know, you can always email me, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com, if you do think of some other ones. But let us talk about, how do we soothe the itch, right? So if you have an itch, if you have a desire, if you have a craving, we have to somehow soothe it without doing the exact thing that it is that we want to do, because obviously it's not working. So the very first, and it's true with everything, is self-reflection. We got to be willing to ask ourselves if what we're doing is trying to fix another person. So you have to be willing to say that to yourself. Like, is that what I'm doing in this moment? Am I trying to fix this other person? So admitting a problem is the first step to healing it. And if you're in a relationship, one way to know is to check your level of frustration with whatever it is you think might be wrong with them. So if your level of frustration is through the roof because of something that they're doing, the reason your frustration is through the roof is because you've been trying to fix it. You've been trying to make it something different because you think it's wrong. And so while you're not wrong for feeling that way, it's not that your feelings are invalid. Let's say it's something as simple as, this person won't take out the trash. You're not wrong for wanting them to take out the trash. But coming from a place of, I'm going to make you do this thing because you have to do it, and that's the way I see it, and that's what I believe about it, and that's it, and you're not doing it, you can be on that soapbox. You can be on that. But that's not going to have the trash taken out the way you want, and it's definitely not going to have you connect with that person. And I use taking out the trash just because it's such a simple example. I'm sure you guys can think of other things as far as your own relationships, where it's like your level of frustration with the way that person is being is so high that you don't even know what to do with yourself half the time. You want to choke them at the same, and hug them at the same time. You don't even know what to do because you love that person, but you want this thing to be so different. So that's how you know that it's something you're trying to fix in that person. And the reason you're trying to fix it is because you see it as broken. So whenever we see something broken in another person, the first thing that we have to do is turn inward. So right now I'm actively dating, right? And so I exchange messages, whatever, little Facebook dating. I know it's like the lowest common denominator. It's free. It's the easiest possible thing people could be doing. But, I'm dipping my toe in. I have had for the last few years, I've dated, but I've really such lightweight dating. I am loving singlehood so much. And it'll be, I've said this before on the show, it will take a lot for me to be willing to relinquish singlehood at this point, because I am very, very happy with it. It doesn't mean that I don't sometimes desire companionship. I do. I sometimes desire partnership. I'm very open to it. I'm open to, how I can overflow into another person, but I'm also way more selective than I've ever been in my life, and not in a superficial way. I just know that I want to align with someone who's really core value aligned with me. Like that, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be about money or anything like that, even though money is important. But I do want someone who has the same core values as I do and sees the same things as important that I do and can understand partnership and complementing each other and supporting each other in a very profound way. And so, I stay single because I haven't seen that person, or I haven't picked that person who I feel like really is aligned with me in that way and can go with that kind of flow. There's not a lot of people that like to flow these days. So yeah, why did I go off on that tangent? Oh, so because I'm doing messaging on, Facebook messaging, I meet people. And I met this guy, we messaged back and forth a few times, and it sounds like he's really down about this pandemic situation. And I know a lot of people are, so I'm not judging him for that. But it sounds like he really is in some negative feelings around it, and it's been a real struggle for him. And, and I'm not someone he knows well. So for him to share that with me, then, it says to me that it's what's in the forefront of his mind, right? Now, the coach in me, the relationship coach in me, knows that this person needs emotional support. And I 100% want him to have emotional support. And, I'm hoping that he gets the support that he needs. And because he didn't come to me to be his coach. He reached out to me to be someone he would potentially date. I have to get self-aware and remind myself that I am not his coach. I am not here to emotionally support him through the pandemic. I am not here to fix whatever's going on with him, that his mental situation is what it is. I can't do that for him. First of all, I don't know him that well, and I don't know what the whole situation is. But there's that part of me that is the inherently codependent. I know how to fix it. I have the itch to fix. That is like, oh, if I get to know him, I'm doing pretty well during all of this pandemic situation. And I don't mean that in a callous way, like, oh, I don't care about any of it. I absolutely 100% care about all of it. But I know that if I don't take care of my own happiness, I can't be a help and a support to others. And I have a lot to be grateful for, number one being my health. So as someone who's been healthy so far, I feel amazing about that. Like, I'm so grateful for that, and I want to do whatever I can to help other people because I feel very fortunate about that, and I'm not promised tomorrow, so I want to enjoy every single moment of still being healthy because none of us knows if we're going to get sick or if this thing's going to take us out, and not to be morose, but, that's where I'm coming from. I'm enjoying every fucking moment I can with 100% joy and happiness. Every bite of good food that I get to eat, every moment that I get to work on my computer or do whatever it is that I like to do, even though I have to do it in the house, every moment that I get to bask in the sunshine, because we so rarely get to do it. And I live in a place where it's not like we get sun every day. Like, every moment that something good has happened, when I get to lay down in my bed at night and I'm breathing easy and I'm not laid up in a hospital bed on a ventilator, I want to enjoy every single moment. I want to honor it. I want to honor it on behalf of the people, and I know I'm going on a tangent, honor it on behalf of the people that can't enjoy it, who are having health problems, who have lost people. I want to value it like it's gold, and I want to honor it. I don't want to sit in misery and sadness and depression when I have so much to be grateful for, because that would be a dishonor to the people who are going through real tough adversity. It would be a dishonor to myself and, what's possible for how I can help and inspire other people, for me to sit and be morose about this and to be in some sort of depression. And don't get me wrong, I have moments, if I watch the news too much, where I feel sadness and I allow myself to feel the sadness. I'm not pretending like it doesn't get me down at all, but I feel so joyful about still being healthy. For as long as I'm going to be healthy. I may come down with this thing, but I feel very, very joyful about every minute that I breathe easy, feel healthy, can work out, can eat good food, can laugh with my friends, can, video date, all of that stuff. That's where I'm at. So for me to start dating someone who is on the complete other end of the spectrum, who has all those same things, but doesn't, is focused on the ills of the world, it's not that there's anything wrong with that person. It's not that I'm putting them down, but I don't want to invite that into my everyday, because the vibe that I have created is a vibe that has me in a space of thriving and surviving during adversity. And I love that. And I love being whatever I can be to help other people do that. Anybody who wants it, I want to help them do that as well. So I don't want to invite anybody in who's going to bring an energy that is not that, unless they want to actually have a different kind of energy. I don't get a sense that this person does, but when I decide to get self-aware and I go into my self-reflection, I know that a few years ago, like when I met my last long-term relationship, what I would have been saying in my mind was, I'm happy enough to be happy enough for both of us. I'm good enough to take care of both of us. But the lesson that I learned, and why I'm so grateful about that relationship, is that is not possible. You will never be happy enough or whole or healthy enough for two people. If you are with someone, they have to have their own happiness, their own wholeness. They have to have their own core values that align with yours, that they're in alignment with, for the relationship to sustain and for it to work. And so I have to ask myself, do I want to put myself in a position of feeling like I want to fix it for him? And no, I don't. I really don't. I have absolutely 100% no desire to do that whatsoever. So that's one way to soothe that itch, is to get self-aware, to observe my own thoughts. Like, what's going on in my head? Am I wearing my coaching hat, or am I wearing my potential girlfriend, wife hat? If I'm wearing my coaching hat and that's what someone is coming to me for, then I can be in coach mode and I can help you and support you in fixing and changing whatever you want. If I'm in I want to be girlfriend, wife mode, you got to come already whole, honey, because I'm not here to fix you. That's not my job. You got to come whole or already envisioning and ready to create whatever it is that you want. But somebody who's down in the dumps and they're up underneath the bed during this pandemic, I want to emotionally support them as a coach. I want to help them out in any way that I can. I don't want to date them. Hopefully that makes sense to y'all. So that's one, self-reflection. Always turn into the self, no matter what it is. And I will always tell you this. If you're having a problem in your dating life, if you're having a problem in your relationship, the first place to look is to yourself. So number 2, self-healing. You got to ask yourself questions. What is going on with me that I feel like I must fix or manipulate another person in order to be with them? Is it that I don't feel like I deserve better? Is it that I don't feel like I deserve another whole person? Is it because it's all I know and it's familiar? Because I'm used to being the fixer. I'm used to being the controller. That's what I know to do. Is it because I'm actually afraid to be vulnerable and get hurt, so I have to be the problem solver? Because when I'm the problem solver, I'm not being vulnerable, so I think I can guard myself from hurt, right? And what do I need to heal so those things don't get in my way? I can't believe we're already running out of time. We're at 50 minutes. What do I need to heal so those things don't get in my way? Whether it's that it's familial and that's just what I do, it's my default setting, or it's because it's all I know, or I feel like I don't deserve better. All of those suggest that there's something to be healed. If I don't feel like I deserve better than to have to fix somebody else, to be in a relationship where I got to be the fixer, if I don't think I deserve better than that, there's something going on with my relationship with myself that's telling me that I'm not good enough. And that's the thing to heal. That's the thing to identify right there. Right? Without making yourself wrong. It's just where I'm at right now. I went through a period of my adulthood where my self-love was in the toilet. It was a period. It was a phase. A phase I've been working myself out of, which is also why I love my singlehood so much right now. Because I have worked my way out of it so far. I'm like unrecognizable from, just a few years ago, especially after ending that relationship. And when I tell you I walked away from that relationship, the saddest and the fattest and the most unhappy self-loathing that I have ever been in my entire life. And it wasn't that person's fault. It was because I went into that relationship knowing that I planned to fix some things and learning that there was no way I was ever going to fix them. And beating my head up against that wall for so long. And the results were, 50 extra pounds of weight. Diagnoses of depression, and just feeling the lowest that I had ever felt in my life. Right? So that all this stuff, it points to what needs to be healed, which is actually pretty miraculous. So then the other thing to soothe the itch is recognition. To love someone, like I was saying earlier, is to support them with their dreams, their visions, and their desires to grow. But if they don't support themselves with those things, we have to be able to recognize the difference between running alongside and cheering them or carrying them. Do you want to run alongside someone and cheer for them, or do you want to carry them? That is the question to ask yourself. Are you carrying somebody right now? Because if you're carrying them and you're doing all of the work and they have no intention of making any transformation or change, and they've shown that to you over and over again, I'm not saying go running out of the relationship, but turn inward. What's going on with me that this is what I'm aligned with right now? You don't have to make any major moves as far as the relationship is concerned. Just turn inward and start looking at your relationship with yourself and recognize this is what's going on. I've gotten myself in this situation where I have to carry this person. And what was I thinking? What's going on with me? What am I thinking now? What do I need to do for myself? What do I need to heal, change, love on, accept about me so that I can transform this relationship? And you might be able to transform it with that person if you're willing to work on you, or you might end up walking away. But the first step is to turn inward. So the conclusion, it's not about being out there trying to be on the lookout for red flags. It's not about, let me look for all the things that indicate to me or whatever. It's about just being aware of our own attachments and intentions. Like with that guy who I was messaging with, I know that I'm committed to meeting and being with someone who's already whole. They don't have to be perfect, but they know where they're going. They know who they are. They're secure enough in themselves. There's nothing about them that triggers my need to fix them or seems like it's a request for being fixed. They have an openness to just being authentically who they are. They're confident about who they are, and they're on their own growth thing that I don't have to, be involved with unless they ask me to, unless they want me to, because they're already engaged in it. Everyone we meet will have flaws. The problem is not when we overlook them, it's when we convince ourselves that we will one day be able to fix them. Period. So, I only got a couple minutes now. I want to tell you guys, I'm a matchmaker for Talkify. I can send you my recruitment link. If you email me, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com, I'll send you the link and you can get in our network and you might be matched with a wonderful client. All you have to do is be single and open to being screened to go on a blind date. Also, every Monday night, I do the Epic Circle, an online healing circle for women everywhere. We come together as a community, cause personal transformation when it comes to communication, forgiveness, self-love, mother-daughter relationships, purpose, friendships, and just all the tools we need to be as big as we were meant to be. And during this pandemic, we were really supporting each other. And we're working on deep level forgiveness right now. Also, I'm kicking off the monthly Ask for Candy Cash App contest. So Ask for Cash App contest, I'm calling it. You can win $50 to $75 directly to your Cash App for following the directions I'll be posting on Instagram at Ask for Candy Podcast and at Candy Love Coach. I got to sign off. Shout out to the Ask for Candy Podcast group. Armed Radio Group News. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Email me, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. And never forget that you are a love machine. If you ever start to feel like you aren't getting enough, just make more and ask for candy. Mwah, 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 mwah. I love you guys so much. I'm going to do that one more time. Until next time, never forget that you are a love machine. If you ever start to feel like you aren't getting the love you need, just make more and then ask for candy. Bye, my loves. Mwah, mwah, mwah.